Notice how the image included all three items, with their specific prices, correctly formatted and readable. ChatGPT excels at following detailed, multi-part instructions, maintaining accuracy across all the elements you specify. This precision makes it practical for creating real business materials, such as product mockups, instructional diagrams, educational visuals, and marketing graphics. First discovery. To summarize what you covered so far, ChatGPT's image generation excels at three things: rendering text that's actually readable, creating realistic human features, including natural-looking hands and faces, following complex multi-part instructions accurately. Whether you need photorealism or artistic styles, the tool adapts while maintaining this precision. Editing existing images. In addition to creating new images, ChatGPT lets you modify existing images by providing new instructions. This works well for iterating on designs or adjusting visuals based on feedback. See? You've just edited a specific element while keeping everything else intact. This iterative approach lets you refine visuals without starting over. Useful when you're fine-tuning materials for clients or presentations. Real-world applications. You've seen what the tool can do. Now, it's time to see how this knowledge can be used professionally. For example, teachers, trainers, or instructional designers can generate diagrams, process visuals, or illustrate examples that include accurate labels and text. The clarity makes these images genuinely useful for learning. Also, if you're a businessman or marketer, you can generate logo concepts, product mockups, social media graphics, or presentation visuals. The ability to include accurate text and realistic details means these aren't just placeholders. They're usable assets. Strong work. The text on your product mockup is legible and looks professionally placed. This is precisely the visual you'd use in a pitch deck, marketing proposal, or client presentation. Second discovery. Two things to remember. You can edit images iteratively without starting over. Just describe what needs to change, and the tool updates that specific element. Image generation is practical for real workflows where you're refining materials based on feedback. The combination of these two factors means you can quickly produce professional visuals. Summing up, all in all, you've discovered through practice what makes the image generation feature work. As always, be specific about what you want. Mention style when it matters. Include any text or details that need to appear. And describe the purpose or context. A few practical tips. State your core request clearly first. Add details about style or colors if they're important. Put specific text in quotes. And mention what the image is for. When editing, focus on one or two changes at a time. Keep these in mind, and you'll master the skill of creating images with ChatGPT. Key takeaways. ChatGPT generates images with readable text, realistic human features, and accurate multi-element scenes. You can create both photorealistic and stylized images, suitable for business and educational materials. The tool follows detailed instructions precisely, translating your prompts into usable visuals. Iterative editing lets you refine specific elements without recreating the entire image. What's next? The following lesson introduces projects, a feature to create persistent workspaces where ChatGPT remembers context, files, and instructions across multiple conversations. See you there? What are projects and why use them? Are you using ChatGPT by clicking that little new chat button every time? There's actually a smarter way to keep your work organized, especially for longer tasks that include planning. With projects, instead of dealing with ChatGPT losing track of what you discussed in separate chats, you can keep everything about a task or idea in one spot. Scenario: heavy planning. Let's look at this case. Your child's birthday is in 3 weeks, and you want to use ChatGPT to plan the event. You have a guest list in Excel, venue quotes in your email, theme inspiration screenshots on your phone, a dozen text threads with your co-parent about the budget. With so many inputs, you definitely need to develop a multi-step plan. In this case, ChatGPT can indeed help you. However, with all the information being scattered, what do you think is the biggest challenge when using separate ChatGPT chats for multi-step planning? Your persistent workspace. Once your first project is created, what do you think is the primary step that you need to take? Once your first project is created, Once your first project is created, what do you think is the primary step that you need to take? Setting project instructions. Various instructions can be set. For example, tone, constraints, priorities, rules. Let's try it in the following exercise. Great! From now on, every chat in this project will follow these guidelines. That is, ChatGPT will automatically consider age, budget, and tone without having to repeat them. What's important is that this is not just about planning birthday parties. The prompt that First discovery. Setting instructions transforms your project into a focused workspace. The same principle works for any uploading your party planning files. For example, imagine you have these files for your party. Excel sheet of guests with names. What do you think ChatGPT can do with your uploaded party planning files? To do exactly that, start a chat and prompt ChatGPT to use the data you need. This is the part when you start working with ChatGPT directly through prompting. Within your project, you can start as many chats as you wish. However, what would be the best approach? See, you did not need to attach your files again. Instead, ChatGPT just instantly understood the context and Second discovery. Instructions and files function as working memory for your project, just like you created a budget. So far, we have only covered using projects for planning events, but can this feature be used for other purposes? Using projects for different purposes. For example, if you're planning a trip or if you're developing your business's social media with ChatGPT, You can separate project chats for content calendar, monthly themes, and post. Another example, if you're managing a freelance consulting business, your project could include chats for proposal writing, client-specific service proposals, project tracking, deliverables, deadlines, client communication, invoice generation, monthly billing with hours and expenses, marketing materials, case studies. The pattern is clear. Projects work best when you have multiple related tasks that share common context, files, goals, tone, and constraints. Excellent work. You've learned how projects create persistent workspaces, where files, instructions, and context stay connected across conversations. Key takeaways. Projects keep files and instructions available across multiple chats within a single workspace. Set instructions once to define tone, constraints. What's next? Now that you understand projects, the next lesson introduces the repetitive recipe request. What if you could create your own version of ChatGPT, one that already knows your preferences, follows your rules, and never forgets your instructions? That's exactly what custom GPT. The repetition problem. Have you ever run out of ideas for what to cook? Or did you get tired of a monotonous diet? In some, the response looks good. But what could be the problem with this recipe? You might be allergic to certain ingredients, prefer vegetarian options. Apart from that, what other frustrations might arise when using ChatGPT for tasks like meal planning? If you use ChatGPT actively, you might be familiar with how specific chats get lost in your history, or how starting a new chat means starting from scratch. This makes for our example of meal planning, that means repeating your dietary preferences, custom GPTs, your reusable assistant. Custom GPTs solve this by creating specialized assistants that remember your instructions. This means that, instead of re-explaining every time, you can just say, "Give me a weeknight dinner idea." You might wonder, isn't this what projects do? Not quite. Projects creating your cooking assistant. To start building a custom GPT, the Create section is where you guide your custom GPT through prompts. In turn, the Configure. What do you think is the first step when building a custom GPT? Perfect. You've established the role. Cooking assistant. Purpose. Custom GPT elements. Cheat, just like that. You can set custom GPTs for any recurring Going back to our cooking assistant, what additional details could you add to make your cooking assistant even more personalized? Input these details in addition to your initial instruction. Input these details in addition to your. What additional details could you? Going back to our cook, just like that. You can set testing your custom G. Notice how your custom GPT regular ChatGPT forces you to re-explain context every time. Beyond cooking. In this lesson, we used meal planning as an example, but custom. Excellent work. Key takeaways. Custom GPTs remember what's next. Now that you understand ChatGPT's core features, the following lessons will show you how to apply all of this in the real world. It's Sunday evening. Tomorrow morning, you have your weekly team check-in, and you need to prepare an update. Your notes are everywhere, chats, emails, phone notes, and you don't know where to start. 45 minutes later, you finally have something usable. The scattered notes problem. Every week, you're going through the same routine of manually organizing everything into a coherent structure. To prepare for let's do the math. 45 minutes every Sunday, 52 weeks per year, 39 hours annually, on one task, and all of this on a weekend day. What do you think is the biggest challenge when preparing for recurring meetings? With ChatGPT, you can turn messy notes into a structured agenda in 5 minutes. Discovering prompting techniques. Sequential task chaining breaks complex workflows into linked steps, with each step building on the previous output. Therefore, instead of do everything at once, now let's build this chain together, step by step. You'll discover each step by figuring out what makes sense next. Ready? Let's start with your scattered update note. Here's what you have scattered across apps. Chats. Finished the client presentation deck yesterday. Email. Next week, need to finalize budget proposal and schedule Q2 review. Phone note. Looking at these scattered notes, what should be your first step? See what just happened? You took scattered, messy notes, and now that you have clean summaries, what should be your next step? Now, you can see exactly what was accomplished, what's coming, and what needs attention. With your notes organized into categories, what should be the final step? Look at that. You went from scattered messages and random notes to a polished professional update. Accomplishments highlighted, priorities clear, support need, technique unlocked. Sequential task chaining works by breaking complexity into manageable steps. Clarify first, transform messy inputs into a clean, readable format. Structure. Second, group related items to beyond weekly updates. In some examples where you can apply sequential prompting, planning a home renovation, great job. Now, key takeaways. Sequential chaining breaks complex tasks into linked steps. What's next? Next, you'll learn how to rewrite any message for tone and clarity, and match your personal voice using examples. The difficult message problem. We all have messages we keep putting off. The team update nobody wants to deliver. The tone challenge. Here are the first drafts for each situation. Work, subject, project timeline. Personal. Hey, I can't help you move this weekend. I have other plans. Good luck with it. Everyday. What's the biggest problem with all three drafts? This is where many difficult messages fail. The basic tone adjustment. First, let's ask ChatGPT to rewrite your work email draft. Is this rewritten version better than the original draft? How? This is a common issue when using AI to rewrite, style matching with examples. ChatGPT can match your writing style if you give it examples to learn from. See the difference? Now, it sounds like you. Conversational. Won't be welcome news. I'm around if anyone wants to talk. First discovery. Examples teach ChatGPT your voice. Without examples, your language is generic and professional. With examples, it reflects your natural style, but polished. Providing 2 to 3 samples of your style preserves your iterative phrase refinement. Phrase refinement. Every day. Your heating has been. What do you think you should do when one specific phrase needs adjustment? Firm, clear, professional, and much more. Canvas is ChatGPT. Let's say you asked, write a formal second discovery. This approach works for any difficult communication you need based on what you learned. When asking ChatGPT to rewrite your email, can you skip providing style examples and just ask for professional tone? Excellent work. You now know how. Key takeaways. Don't. What's next? In the next lesson, you'll learn how to use ChatGPT to research anything that matters. The research overwhelm problem. Have you ever tried to research something important? A new laptop? A case scenario. Buying a laptop. For this lesson, let's imagine you're thinking your instinct is to Google. Best laptop start of 2026. MacBook versus Dell comparison. Is it worth buying a laptop now? After 2 hours, you're just more confused than when you start. When researching an important purchase or decision, what challenges might you face? This is where traditional search fails. It gives you links, understanding web search. Do you remember how web search can help with research? Researching market demand. To see the web search's effect in action, let's try to. Was this response helpful for making a decision? Not only see the difference? Now, moreover, you'll notice that ChatGPT. Why is this important when researching any decision? First discovery. Effective research with ChatGPT requires three elements: specific prompts. Ask for exact data you need, such as market size, trends, pricing, instead of vague questions. Web search enabled. It gets real-time information comparing your options. Now, you have a direct comparison tied to your actual use. With an overview and comparison done, what should you research next? Red flags and deal breakers. Final research question. What do real users complain about? This is where you find the problems that The result. So you now know that your second discovery. You've just used a new prompting technique, the layered research approach. Here's its pattern. Layer 1. Overview. What are the best X for use case under budget? Include current data and trends. Layer 2. Comparison. Compare option A versus option B for use case. Include criteria. Layer 3. Red flags. What do real users complain about with options? Cite reviews. Each layer builds strategic intelligence. Specific questions get. The same approach works for any decision you need to research. Choosing a neighborhood, area overview and prices, comparison. Excellent work. Key. What's next? Now that you know how to research any decision systematically, it's time to put that clarity to work. Next, the multi-step planning challenge. Say you've been thinking about starting a small business, a freelance service, an online shop, or a side project you've been putting off. You have a rough idea of what you want, but the information is scattered everywhere. Market research notes, cost estimates, competitor names, and a to-do list that keeps growing. You need to turn this chaos into a clear plan, but where do you even start? Let's use projects to organize everything and build a structured approach. The business planning problem. Here's your situation. You want to launch a small online business selling handmade products. You have the idea, the motivation, but not yet the structure. You've been collecting information for weeks, and now you have 3 potential product ideas, different effort, cost, and demand levels, notes on competitors you've researched online, a rough cost estimate for materials and setup, a list of things you need to do before launch, and budget constraints. $3,000 maximum to get started. You need to make decisions. Which product to start with? Which platform to sell on? How much will it actually cost to launch? When can you realistically be open for business? But every time you try to plan, you get overwhelmed. In this sense, what makes planning a business hardest? When information is scattered. This is where projects can help. Put everything in one place, set your constraints, and let ChatGPT help you structure a plan that considers all your scattered inputs at once. Let's see how. Setting up your business project. First, as you might remember, you need to create a dedicated project for your business planning. Then, before uploading files, set project instructions. These tell ChatGPT your priorities and constraints for the entire launch process. This ensures every conversation stays grounded in what matters most to you. Now, ChatGPT won't suggest expensive product lines over budget or complex launch strategies that require full-time attention. Creating a structured plan from scattered inputs. Next, upload all your business materials. Once uploaded, ChatGPT can reference various sources and compare product ideas, while considering your budget and timeline. Once your scattered materials are uploaded, let's start your first chat and ask ChatGPT to synthesize everything. The plan looks good, but the budget estimate comes in at $3,500 to $4,000, over your $3,000 maximum. What should you do next? When you need to make refinements, you can always perfect. Now you see clear. First discovery. Organizing decisions. Now you have a road. Organizing work across. Do you remember why using separate chats is a great approach? And one of the main features of projects? Hence, for your beyond relocation, this structured planning approach There you go. Key takeaways. Projects keep all planning materials accessible across multiple conversations. Set constraints upfront, budget, timeline, priorities, to guide realistic recommendations. ChatGPT, what's next? Now that you know how to organize complex planning with projects, the next lesson takes it in a completely different direction. Your The financial blind spot problem. Have you ever thought that you're spending too much on stuff, but don't know where exactly? Well, ChatGPT, before you start. Building a custom GPT requires a paid ChatGPT plan. If you're on a free plan, use projects instead. The personal spending mystery. Often, money feels like it's disappearing. You're not reckless with spending. You need answers. Which categories are eating your budget? Why does it feel like you're spending more lately? To help you with that, a custom GPT, building your finance analyzer. First, you need to create a new custom GPT, specifically for personal finance analysis. Next, you need to give your finance analyzer initial instructions in the Configure section. Next, go to the Configure section. Also in Configure, add conversation starters. Quick act. Your custom GPT is now configured. What should be your next step? Uploading your transaction data. In seconds, your custom GPT transformed hundreds of first discovery. Custom GPT. Now, you see restaurant spending increased 27% over 3 months. What should you do next? Digging deeper with it. Now you see the real pattern. Your custom GPT used your actual spending data to suggest realistic cut. Second discovery. Structured decision comparison. What makes this comparison more valuable than generic rent versus buy calculators online? Custom GPT for personal finance. The complete setup you just learned. Define role. Your custom GPT evolves with your needs. You can update. This approach works beyond personal finances. Excellent. You've become even more skillful in creating custom GPTs. Key takeaways. Custom GPTs process uploaded files, such as CSV transactions. What's next? You've mastered ChatGPT's practical applications: productivity, research, planning, finance. The Content Creation Challenge. Creating content for platforms you don't know well is stressful, whether you're running a business, sharing a passion, or building your personal brand. What works? How to write texts? What kind of images to use? You could spend hours researching best practices.